Hello everyone, and welcome to another video about MATLAB Gadameter style. Today we are making a video, an introduction about MATLAB, specifically about the working environment that we will deal with inshallah in the future. But before doing so, we need first to know in a brief what is MATLAB and what it can do. MATLAB is a language made to do technical computation. It can do a lot of things regarding computation. It can do mathematical computation, algorithm development, modeling, simulation, visualization, data analysis, handling 2D and 3D graphics, performing or making applications including graphical user interface, and so on. It can do a lot of things. I encourage you to Google it. I also will include a link in the description below so that you can read this brief description and see what I can do. MATLAB system consists mainly from 5 parts. The first part is the language that MATLAB can understand. The second is the working environment that we will introduce today inshallah. The third is the graphics handling. The fourth is the mathematical function library, the library that's stored in MATLAB, from which we will deal with some of them, not all of them indeed. And the fifth part is the application program interface or API, which we will ever deal with in this series or in these videos that we will record. As we see, this is the MATLAB environment. There are some partitions here: home, plots. They are not activated because there are no variables defined here. We will see this maybe not in this video, maybe later. And another partition called apps, an abbreviation for applications. These are built-in applications in MATLAB that do a specific task. So if you want to do a specific task, first you have to check these applications. Maybe you find one of them do or perform this task for you. That will save you effort and time. Okay. Here we find some windows, some open windows in the environment, in the working environment. The first one that we will deal with a lot of times is the command window. Command window, as we see, is a window in which we perform or we run a single line or a single code that we do not want to save it. We will see this in a moment inshallah. Here is the workspace window, in which the variables that we define or the output of the code or the function that we define is stored or are stored in. Here is the current folder window, in which the folder that we work in is specified or is opened. There is another one window called the comment history window. To access it, we can use layout. Come here to command window. We can choose docked to make it appear like this. Command window includes all the commands that we performed or we ran in the command window with the time and with the date. If we don't want it to appear like this, we can reselect pop-up. Pop-up, it will appear by pressing the up arrow. As we know, MATLAB is an abbreviation of Matrix Laboratory. MATLAB deals with all the variables that we define as matrices. So as a first step, we have to know how to define a matrix. To define a variable, we write the name of this variable, say a capital equals. If we want it to be a matrix, we use these brackets, and we plug in here the value of the matrix that we want to define the variable to. Say we want to define this matrix as 1 by 1 matrix, and it takes the value 5. So we write 5 and hit enter. Here we find in the workplace that the variable a capital is defined and stored. If we double click it, we find that another window appears, which is the variables window. It includes the dimension of the variable, which is 1 by 1 here, and the value of this variable. If we want to define another variable, say b, but now we want it to be a row, but this time we want to define b as a row. To define a variable as a row, we can use put some number 1 space 2 space 3 4 5 and so on. If we press enter, we find the value of this variable as. To define a row, we can also use the comma. Say we want to define the c variable, we write c equals square brackets, between the brackets 1 comma 2 3 4 5 and so on. If we press enter, we find the value of c as the value of b, as when we used space. On the other hand, if we want to define a coulomb, let's say it's v equals square brackets, I forget about the semicolon now. We now use the semicolon between the brackets, say 1 semicolon 2 3 4 5. If we press enter, we find that v now is a coulomb like this. If we press it, double click it, we find that it's 5 by 1 the dimension, and the value of the variable is stored in these cells, in these 5 cells. As we said, MATLAB can do mathematical calculations. Here we have b as a row and c as a row. We can add these rows and say another one equals sum. No, it's not good to use sum. Say s equals b plus c, capital indeed. And if we press enter, we find that the answer is 2 4 6 8 10 and so on. Here there is a command that clears the command window, which is CLC. CLC, a short abbreviation for clear command window. Hit enter and we find that the command window became blank now. If we ask MATLAB about v capital, it gives us the value of v capital. If we ask it about v small, it gives us an error, undefined variable, because MATLAB is case sensitive, so we have to pay attention when defining and dealing with variables. As we said, MATLAB can do mathematical operations. We have just tested the addition of matrices. We can do the same with subtraction. B minus c indeed equals zeros. We can find the transpose of the matrix. Say here we have v as a coulomb. We can define some other variable equals y, named y equals. To find the transpose of a matrix, we use the dash or the prime operator. Hit enter, we find that y now equals the row or the transpose of v. Here we defined some rows and vectors, 1D matrices. But if we want to define 2D matrices and 3D matrices, it's the same procedure. say